guys and dolls, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a really fun video sharing with you guys my favorite eye makeup brushes. I am a little bit of a brush fiend. I have a massive collection of brushes, but I do have some that I tend to use over and over and over again because they just work. And that's the bottom line, is whatever brushes work for me, these are simply suggestions. Whatever works for you is great. And honestly, there are brushes that I've gotten in kits where I didn't like almost anything in the kit, but this one particular brush was, turns out to be one of my favorites. I have some indie brush brands. I have some like old mainstays like MAC. I have some new Urban Decay brushes that I love. And I tend to prefer brushes that are very detail oriented. I like very small. This is actually one of my favorite brushes. This is about 1,000,000 years old, and it was like a gift with purchase kind of thing that I got from, I don't know, maybe Lancome or something. And I've never been able to find an exact duplicate of this brush. It's like very small but fluffy. It's just great for so many different purposes. So I do tend to prefer more detail oriented brushes because then you can do more delicate work with them. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started with my favorites. I know this looks like a lot, and it is. Some of these are dupes of each other, which I will discuss kind of as we go through this. I'm going to get started with a brush that is just so fabulous. I think that everyone would really benefit from this brush, and that is the Blanding Tools 762. This is a very, very fine eyeliner. It's an angled liner brush. It's very thin, and it does such a great job because it's so tiny and so thin of getting your liner right there at the lash line. I prefer to use this with a liquid eyeliner. Like this one is from Makeup Forever. This one's from Milani. Either one works the same. They're like a pot eyeliner. And it just does the most beautiful job. You can get great wings with it. You can just fill in the lash line with this. It's just a perfect brush. It works every single time. Another one that's somewhat similar would be the Smith 203. This one is also quite delicate, but I do still prefer the Blanding Tools one, but either one of these actually works quite well. Next brush I want to discuss is also from Smith Cosmetics, and this is the Smith 256. This brush is divine. It's their arrowhead shaped brush, so you see it comes to a point. This is so unique in the makeup world. Typically, shader brushes are shaped like this, where they're sort of square or maybe they're a bit rounded. In particular is also the way that it's cut. It has hairs that are like as short as like almost the ferrule and then kind of keeps going, and that graduation means that it picks up product beautifully. I mean, wow, it just picks up tons of product. Not too much. You might need to kind of tap off a little bit with this, but it also holds on to the product really well, which means that while you're applying it, it's just a dream to work with. This also works really well for applying glitter to the eye, and this brush is also available in a smaller version. This is the 253. Once I found these, I was just in heaven. I use them constantly. These are some of the best eyeshadow brushes, like shader brushes, that I've ever used. Also, because they're fluffy, you can also use them to blend, which is really, really great. You can also use these as crease brushes as well with that pointed tip. They're fabulous. They're multi-use. These are ones I would highly, highly recommend. And I really love Smith Cosmetics. It's an artisan or artisanal brush brand. The ferrules themselves are coated with an antimicrobial thing. I think they have like 3 layers of this antimicrobial stuff on it, and it really kind of helps them stay clean and everything. Very cool brand. Okay, so the next brush I want to talk about is from Real Techniques. This is the domed shadow brush, and this is one I've had for quite some time, and it has been severely beat up. It definitely has, seen better days. It's got like some hairs that are starting to kind of come out, and because it's synthetic, it's actually still attached. In fact, I think I need to like cut it or something down. Do you see this little guy? The end here is getting kind of funky and stuff from just being used and cleaned and used and cleaned for so many years, but this is a workhorse in my collection. I like to use this one to blend out highlight, or to blend out even the lower lash line. I will use this to do concealer. I will use this to do my eyeshadow base. I will use this for concealer on my face and under my eye, and just like, this brush is so multi-useful. It's so multifunctional. I actually don't know why I don't have like 3 of these on hand. I have a few other brushes that I use for the same purposes as I use this one, but this is one I always end up going to. My next favorite brush I want to talk about is from London Brush Company. This is the Classic 5. This one is like a pointed type brush. It does an incredible job of applying product and blending it out at the same time. I particularly like it for delicate work, like on the inner corner or on the outer corner, or even a little bit on the lower lash line, but I love it for inner and outer corner application. You could also use this in the crease. It's just a perfect brush. In fact, I think I need more of these in my life. Next brush I want to talk about is also from London Brush Company, and this is the Classic 7. And this is made out of, I believe, the same hair. It's so super smooth, and the way that it lays down product is just phenomenal. The flat shape of this one, it's very, very thin if you pull it to the side. It's very slim, and then wide when you have it kind of at its face. The roundness of it gives a great, great shape if you want to use this to pack on color on the lid for like a cut crease kind of look on the lower part of the lid. Phenomenal, phenomenal. Every single time it looks great. This also works really great at doing highlight underneath the brow bone and all kinds of other purposes. Great brush, highly recommend it. Need to get more of those. Brush that functions pretty similarly to the London Brush Company would be my MAC 252, one of my all-time favorite brushes. I particularly like this one for brow bone highlight. That's kind of my main thing that I use this for, but it's also great for packing color all over the lid, especially if you're doing a lighter color or a more blown out thing because it's so large. But this one doesn't have the quite rounded shape of the London Brush Company, which is why I prefer this one for packing color in the lid, and I prefer this one for brow bone highlight. The next, since we're talking about shaders, I'll kind of talk about some of my other favorite shaders. One of my all-time favorites is the MAC 239. Mine has definitely seen better days. I will say though that I do prefer the one that I've had for like a bajillion years to my new one. This new one has more of a square shape, and you can see it's a lot fluffier. This is probably what this one used to look like, but this one was used and used and used and used, and goat hair does tend to get broken down over time. But I've had this brush now for like 7 years, maybe 6 or 7 years, and I've used it almost daily for all of that time. So it does break down, but as it breaks down, I think it actually works better than when you initially purchase it. I also really love the MAC 242. This is a synthetic brush, and it's very slim. This one is great at packing on product, especially if you don't want it to be as wide as, say, like the London Brush Company brush. Obviously, this is like, you know, half the size of the London Brush Company brush. This one's really great for doing any kind of delicate work. It works great for blending. Phenomenal brush. I have multiples of these on hand because it's just that good. So the next couple of brushes I'll talk about are from Urban Decay. This one, they launched like a whole collection of new brushes last year, and this one is called the Angled Lip Brush. And ironically, I don't use this for lip at all. In fact, I use this mostly for doing delicate work on the under eye right here, dragging things from the inner tear duct area in towards the lash line and doing the same in the outer corner and then dragging it in. It's perfectly shaped for that. I also like using this in the, you know, upper lash line if my London Brush Company brush is dirty. It's just a really, really great brush. The next one is also from Urban Decay. This is called the Detailed Smudger, and I love, love, love this brush for using on my lower lash line to blend out like, you know, pencil liner and things of that nature. I also really like this for applying eyeshadow and sort of blending that into the lower lash line. Great brush, kind of a unitasker for me, but I love it for the purpose that it serves. The next brush is from Smith Cosmetics. This is a spoolie. I had just never seen a spoolie quite this wide, and it does a great job of just sort of combing them all together quite quickly. This definitely isn't like a must-have, but I do like that it's bent and it's really easy to use. Speaking of spoolies and things like that, I really like this one from Urban Decay. This is the Essential Eye Tool. I like it because it has the comb side, the brush side, and then the spoolie side. You're kind of all set with that. Next brush that I want to talk about is actually, it's somewhat interchangeable. It's a very, very fine tipped liner brush. Now, I actually don't use these for eyeliner because I do tend to prefer the angled brushes and things like that for eyeliner, but I like using these to do very delicate work on the inner corner. This one's a Craftstore brush. This one is from Smith Cosmetics. It doesn't matter as long as it's teeny, teeny, tiny and soft and doesn't poke you in the eye. Craftstore brushes are great. When I first started with my makeup collection, a lot of my brushes were from Low Cornell, and they were just, you know, Craftstore brushes. I mean, why not use them? There's no rule that says that you can't. Next couple of brushes that I want to talk about are all goat hair brushes. They all look pretty similar. They do function a little bit differently, but realistically, these are all kind of like variations on the same theme. So this one is the MAC 217, which is one of my first brushes. I love this. It's still rocking. It's still working really well. Really, really great at crease work. Really, really great for blending things out. All around brush. You can also use this to put color on the lid. It's just kind of like a one and done kind of brush. Smith Cosmetics, I think, really kind of saw that, and then they came out with the 247, which is the most similar in shape to the MAC 217. You can see these are pretty interchangeable. But then they also sort of came out with variations on that theme. So the 217 and the 247 both feature like a fluffy type brush head, goat hair, and then a pinched ferrule that almost gives it like two different sides. So I really like using this brush to like pick up the color on one side and then flip it over and then put it into the crease. So I'm depositing the majority of the color into the crease and not onto the lid. That's just what I like to do with it. It's just one of the ways that you can use it. This one is a variation on that theme. This is the 235. This one has more of a pointed type shape to it. So if you look at it against the 217, it's much more pointed, it's much more fluffy, but they do have that pinched ferrule, which means you can use one side or the other of the brush. This one's also not quite as dense, so that means that it sort of blends things out a bit better because it's not like holding on to the product as much. And then you have the 230, which is a round version, so this one does not have a pinched ferrule. This one's really, really great for blending out crease work, things like that. And then they have the 232, which is like a gigantic brush. This one's a little bit better for just blending things out or doing a wash of color on the lid. I don't use this one as much because, again, I tend to prefer more detailed brushes, and because I also really like these two blenders. This one's from Sonia Kashuk. I'm not going to tease you with it. This is no longer sold. It's a shame. This was a phenomenal brush. I believe that Inglot has one that's somewhat similar to this, but it's not quite the same. Sorry. So come to think of it, the closest thing that I have to this Sonia Kashuk brush is this Wayne Goss 3. They are both super fluffy, super, super soft, and it does that same like super soft blending in the crease. Really great. Oh, love it, love it. So that would be a dupe for the Sonia Kashuk one. You can see they're still not quite identical, but they're pretty close. The next one is from Sonia Kashuk. This one is available. This is the number 7 brush. This one is kind of in the vein of the MAC 217, where it's a pinched ferrule, it's a bit fluffy, but it's much smaller. So this one is really good at doing sort of detailed type work. This one is a little bit tighter for the crease for when you want to really make a color intense. This one is a great brush to use. This one is the pencil blender, the BMP 149 from Royal & Langnickel. This is hands down my favorite Royal & Langnickel brush. It's a very round, very fluffy brush. This is not actually what I would call a pencil brush, because in my opinion, a pencil brush is shaped more like this, where it comes more to like a point. And I actually don't really love that many traditional pencil brushes. This one is very fluffy, and it's perfect for doing really intense crease work. Phenomenal for that. It also blends because it is a bit moppy and fluffy. Great, great brush. Highly recommend it. The next brush that I want to share with you is from London Brush Company. This is a line of brushes they have called Best Kept Secret, and this is the number 3 brush. This one has a triangular ferrule, which I'm not 100% sure you'll be able to tell here in the video. It's very unique, and it's, again, great for crease work, great for blending. You can see that I have a lot of brushes that do kind of the same thing. When I say it's great for crease work, they all kind of work a little bit differently, and as you get to use them and as you are using your own brushes, you kind of will differentiate for yourself what works best for what situation. This one's very soft. Again, it has goat hair. I think goat hair really blends beautifully. One of my favorite hair types. The next brush is the Wayne Goss 20, and I said I don't really care for pencil brushes, but I do like this one because it's a bit softer, and it's a little bit better, again, for deep crease work, for cutting the crease. It's also really nice for blending out things on the bottom edge here. It's a bit softer than some of the other brushes, so when my eyes are irritated or they're feeling sensitive, I wear contact lenses, so sometimes that happens. I do tend to prefer these softer brushes. And then the last couple of brushes are some detailed brushes that I use for both eyes and lips. So this is the 228 from MAC. This is another road horse in my collection. I have multiple of these on hand. I like using them for delicate work around the eye. I love using them for lips as well. Great, great brush. The next one is the Wayne Goss 7. Again, another little teeny tiny brush that I like to use for detailed work around the eye or on the lips. The Delium Tools 712, another really great like filbert shaped brush, and filbert means it's sort of like round and flat. Great for doing lip work particularly. I love that for. This is a furless brush. This is the PRO7M. This one is a angled brush. It's phenomenal for doing my lips, actually. It's my favorite lip brush. This one is from Urban Decay. This is the Tight Line brush. I tend to prefer this, again, for lips. And then the Smith Cosmetics 304 is a teeny tiny brush that I like to use for very delicate work around the eye or on the lips. And that, kids, is my favorite makeup brushes video. I hope that this is helpful for you guys. I've had a lot of requests to do this. I feel like it's really hard to explain like why a particular brush works. It sort of becomes intuitive, and you end up just sort of naturally gravitating for the brush that's going to work for whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. I almost look at my brushes as like an extension of my hand, so it just becomes sort of second nature. So like, for instance, a lot of these I said, this is great for crease work and this is great for crease work, and it's like, how many brushes do you need for crease work? They all work a little bit differently. Some of them are softer and they don't deposit as much color, and some of them, you know, deposit a lot of color. And so that's that. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Remember to be vintage or tacky. Just be your own kind of beautiful. See you, bye.